Welcome back, cover junkies, to Cover Decoder, the show where we waft away the dungeon myths to reveal the musical wizard hiding within the fog. Because tonight...
He's got his synthesizer. He's got his $5 robe from...
He's got his power glove.
Yes, and he's pounding on those keys with passion and sweat. And the reason why we have gone back into the dungeon is because when we did our Dungeon Synth episode 10, I believe,
Correct.
Inks was the level 1 squire clutching my splintery wooden sword to my chest, glancing around as I followed my 2 Cover Decoder brethren, Tapes, Engineer, maybe you've heard of them.
We're here.
Into the dungeon of Dungeon Synth, and I didn't know what I was going to bring to the table, and I stumbled upon something special.
Yeah, you really needed to increase your DPS there, but we were there for you.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, I rolled a 22. Hi. 22.
Yeah, you had a bonus there.
I did, and I came
you
up
rolled
with
a 22 on a D20. That's
yeah, baby.
That's something special.
So, all right, nice. And I chose. I found Guild of Lore.
Yes.
And
your reveal spell worked very successfully.
Yes. I wafted away, gained some experience points, and Guild of Lore became a part of our libraries immediately. We became instant fans, and the man behind Guild of Lore, the Guild Master Ingsmith, he contacted us because he heard that episode. And he decided to come on with us tonight to do an interview. And we're just super excited because we're brand new fans of his. But we see his rising star happening in the world of Dungeon Synth. And we couldn't be...
We're so excited.
Yeah, we couldn't be happier.
Yeah, we are like a couple of eager young kids who just found... their first Tracy Lord VHS tape hidden in Uncle Rupert's secret drawer, and we're about to pop that in and play it right now
kind of magic
for you guys. So grab your individual blankets, turn on some Dungeon Synth, and get ready to...
Or one blanket if you're into the one blanket thing.
Yeah,
the one bobbing blanket.
If you've been on a quest, as long as we have together, it's probably one giant quilt. But
we don't know whose smell begins and whose ends. Yeah.
Regardless, grip your sword, grip your axe, and get ready because it's going to be a quest you will not forget. Greetings once again, Cover Junkies. You may recall a particularly misty delve we did 3 episodes ago into the realm of Dungeon Synth. Well, we were hunting for the lost treasure of the undead gnome lord. We happened to stumble upon a scroll detailing the whereabouts of a certain hermetic scholar known only as Master Ingsmith. Well, friends, we sent a carrier pigeon to the lands of ice and autumn, and lo, and behold, the wandering guildsmen agreed to board the next boat out of Stormhaven, sail over the interwebs to here with us tonight. Ladies and lords of the Cover Kingdom, please welcome the creative head behind Guild of Lore, Master Ingsmith, a.k.a. Jason Shook, to the show. Jason, welcome aboard.
Yes, Master Ingsmith.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's very much my pleasure as well to be here and chat with you. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very cool. We have been just guzzling your music like a old Ford pickup guzzles gasoline.
It can pass everything but a gas station.
You've been a busy guy. A new
Yes.
album, a show. How's that feel?
Exhausting. I'm very, very happy, and I'm very pleased with the outcome of all of it, and especially the responses, and all of the fans that have been just amazing guild keepers throughout from the very beginning, from Winterstead. I mean, it's just they keep amassing, and it's very amazing to me, and it's a very special thing, and I'm very, very proud. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You should be. And your music definitely has that life. It has that energy, and it deserves the pull. So we definitely appreciate your music. I know here, especially for some of us, we'll get into that a little later, your music has a very special attraction. But before we go too far into that, if you don't mind, if you're keen, I wanted to kick things off just with a little warm-up. Are you down for that, Jason?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. It's just a little questionnaire, just some questions, pretty innocent.
Sure.
I don't even know what this is about. This is a mystery, even to me.
Yeah,
yeah.
The
Ooh,
tapes.
I'm already intrigued. Let's do it.
He's our own Loki.
We like to. Sometimes we have questions about people. Like you think about actors, and you're like, you know what? I wonder how if he like makes his bed when he gets up. I wonder what color socks he wears.
Yeah.
You don't wonder that? Okay. All right. Well, I'm alone under the table here. Anyway, okay. Let's kick this off. So, first one's an easy one. Favorite and least favorite color. That's it.
Probably my favorite color is green, and probably my least favorite color, seafoam green.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. That is interesting. Two greens. The
seafoam green really isn't green. I'm sorry. It's just it looks like a My Little Pony puked.
It makes a lot of sense. You like that deep evergreen.
Yeah, absolutely. Ironically, the house that I live in, my front door is seafoam green. It was that way when I moved in, and it's just, and it's been. It always irks me.
It's a surprise that you have a house at all. We figured you lived in like a little castle, maybe like a cottage in the mountains.
Bricks, lots of stone.
But, honestly, I mean, Ingsmith kind of doesn't really. He's more like a vagabond. He really doesn't have a home.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all of the guilds are really his home. So I mean, he more or less just travels from guild to guild, and those are his homes. It's kind of like being a member of the Elks Lodge. He just gets in his wagon and goes to the next guild and hangs out for a while, and when he gets tired of it or got a letter from some other guild, moves along.
I love that. Such a cool
That's
concept.
a sweet gig. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You can taste all the different stews. All right, second one here. Favorite childhood show / breakfast cereal.
Oh, geez, man, come on, that's a tough one.
Just one.
I would say my cereal of choice, that was probably a little easier, would have been, and actually that is a tough one. Lucky Charms, maybe, when I was a
There you
kid.
go.
It's a fine choice. A fine choice.
It's the cover.
Yeah, and favorite show, man. That's you know what? I'll go back and forth in my head, but when it comes down to brass tacks, probably Masters of the Universe.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, every kid dreamed of having those muscles and then realized, wait a minute, this is too much work.
And I really just wanted to live in Castle Grayskull. Castle Grayskull was fantastic. And yeah, I owned all those toys when I was a kid, so it was it was a lot of time spent with those things and in Fantasyland with those things.
They were the best toys.
Absolutely.
They really were. That was quality stuff.
All right,
Absolutely.
so you've been snagged off the road. You're not sure why, but the people that have you tell you that they are going to subject you to a 48-hour session of audio torture. Now, you get to pick the song that you have to listen to for 48 hours. Do you pick...
Oh, jeez.
Do you pick the Bee Gees' You Should Be Dancing? Do you pick Barbara Ann by the Beach Boys? Or do you pick Glory Days by Bruce Springsteen?
I'll take Glory Days.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That was an easy one.
That really, that song, for whatever reason, just drives nails in my head. Something about it.
Hum a bar. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar.
I'm a Bruce Springsteen fan, and believe me, I can see why and how that would happen to you. A lot of a lot of the songs off of that particular album. In fact, that particular album really isn't. It's not really one of my favorites of his, but I mean, there's a few things on it that are okay. And that song, when it first came out, it was catchy. It was a hit. I never got into the whole Born in the USA track. That was never my thing. I didn't care about that. Dancing in the Dark, yeah, and then Glory Days, that was okay. But yeah, they got beaten into the ground, man. MTV did that.
Absolutely. I mean, for me personally, the Boss doesn't quite make the cut, but Dancing in the Dark, that is a catchy ass tune, I will say.
That was a great song.
All right, final one here. If you had to choose your ultimate 3-man action team from any films, who would they be?
3-man action team from any films. Wow, that is a good question.
Or 3 women. I mean,
absolutely.
I
That's
put
true.
Ripley on my team personally.
There you go.
Ripley's
that's very true.
That's a good call.
Don't leave the ladies out.
I'm gonna go, and it has to be action movies, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We can go action sci-fi. How about that? We can definitely tickle that.
Well, okay. I'm down for that. I'm gonna go. Well, we're gonna take Bruce Willis for sure. Bruce Willis has got to be there.
Oh yeah, easily.
I don't know that he's really been he's not an action star, but I think he's supported action. It doesn't matter. I would want him on my team. It would be Christopher Walken. And
oh yeah,
of course.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Those two guys, and then I would say probably outside of that, maybe. That's a really good question. Let me think. Patrick Stewart from David Lynch's Dune.
I love that.
You
pick.
young pup.
The gurney.
You young pup.
Obscure. I love it.
He was a badass in that movie.
That is quite the pick. I love that. You got to have Gurney.
Yeah, that's a
You got to
team.
have the Walken.
Yes. Yep.
All right.
That's a good
Right
balance.
on. Good picks. It's a good balance. You got everything you need in there. All right.
Yep.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for riding along. We're going to jump into some questions here now.
Cool.
Start
The
peeling off the
easy
layers.
ones.
Yeah, we're gonna open up the book and write some of your lore
tome.
down here for our listeners. So starting
good.
off here, I kind of like to find out a little bit behind the scenes, if you will. The other guys, Inks is kind of more of our cover specific guy. Brengineer is kind of our sound man, but I kind of like to get into the backstory here. So our listeners may not know this, but you're actually the head of several projects: Breather 1, Ciders, American Saga, Ramblers Noir. And I'm curious, including Guild of Lore, many of your projects have this theme of travel, of moving place to place. Especially with American Saga, it just kind of seems, I got the feeling that, you in your own life either had those experiences of travel or maybe you long for travel. What is this kind of influence in your music? Does that play a role?
Oh, absolutely. I have a very, very thick-hearted wanderlust at my core, and I'm definitely an adventurer at heart. So I'm always constantly seeking, and exploring new places, adventures, just anything and everything I can possibly do. I love mapping out quests and unexplored territories. It's funny you mentioned the Americana Saga. That particular album, when I wrote that, I was reading Neil Peart's Clockwork Angels, and I had really never. I didn't even know Neil Peart wrote books and stuff, and I happened upon it accidentally somehow, and I had some time years back and started digging into it. But Neil Peart can actually write some fantasy, man. It's some good stuff, and it is some very like wayward, Wayfarer type fantasy, a little bit on the steampunk side as well, but at the core of it, very much exploratory and uncharted lands and all that jazz. So a lot of that album was really written based off of that, but also while I was listening to that, I was also listening to a lot of Tom Petty and stuff like that, which kind of gave it that
absolutely
type stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are correct. The majority of all my albums, the Breather One stuff, is all very much exploratory space music. The Cider stuff is all very much like Cajun Creole, swampland, exploratory type stuff. Ramblers Noir obviously deals with like my love for like film noir and the old 30s and 40s detective pulp novels and that type of stuff and all those wild stories, and I love watching like the TCM channels and all those channels that still play the 20s, 30s, and 40s movies and a lot of the B films that really dealt with like people back in the U.S. when it was still kind of the Wild West, and they're traveling all over the country, and that was what they were experiencing, a lot like Kerouac in a lot of his books, but in a much more darker atmosphere, I suppose.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I got to say too that the noir, the cover on that, I love the greasy spoon plate diner. It's like the perfect combination.
Oh, the atmosphere of that cover and the music is like spot on.
Yeah, that one definitely got me. Folks, definitely check out that album. It's that one was definitely striking for me.
I very much appreciate that, and it was a fun one to make as well. And obviously, Guild of Lore is like my mothership of all the projects that I have when it comes to adventuring and exploring like wayfaring type music and just fantasy music. So I mean, it's really where I get to embellish in those ideas and really take them to the extreme.
Right. Well, and I'm not sure if our listeners are familiar, because I'm sure lots of them are familiar with just Guild of Lore, but you play a lot of instruments, correct? And I'm assuming those albums were recorded with live instrumentation.
Yeah, so I mean, like Americana Saga is all me. It's all bass, drums, guitars. I did everything and sang, and even Ramblers Noir, I did all of that as well. So yeah, I've been playing music since I was 6 years old. I first picked up my dad's old Martin and never looked back from there. And just once I picked that up and kind of got going, then somebody somewhere would need something else. So I'd step over to a bass, start learning how to play bass. Oh, you need a drummer? Oh, I'll learn how to play drums. Okay.
That's great. That's how the start of all good bands begin. And kind of jumping off that, like we've said, your music, you can really just tell with the mood, just with like the creation and the style of your albums. There's a really heavy sense of influence that you can kind of sense from past. So I'm very curious, how did a young Jason Shook spend his time? What what are kind of the roots of your style? You know, where did this love of music and imagery take hold?
Well, I very early on, I was drawn to all sorts of different music. I grew up in a very red-blooded home. My dad was at the time he was a rancher and a mountain man, and to this day he's still a mountain man, but would go up to the mountains a lot and do pack mules and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
It's amazing.
So I grew up in the Sierra Nevadas a lot. I lived 30 minutes from the foot of the Sierra Nevadas, so we'd be up there all the time. And the backdrop to that was, him listening to Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, so on and so forth. I mean,
all the classics.
My man.
Yeah, my dad had all of them, and so I was very exposed to real country music very early on.
Real folks.
Yes, very real. And from that, what was going on where I live in this very bubblish valley of California was it was still very much into the early phases of like hip hop, and they had like classic rock going on and oldie stations on the radio, and that was about it. And that's what, my mom was really into oldies and stuff, so I get exposed to a lot of classic oldies from 50s and 60s and stuff like that. So I heard a lot of different spectrums early on, and once I got into watching TV and those Saturday morning cartoons, and back then there was still like Kung Fu Theater on at noon on Saturday, so I'd sit and watch Kung Fu Theater, and I was immediately drawn to soundtracks. Like I connected much more, I think, on a different level than most people would with what was happening sound-wise, just as much as what was happening visually. It was just as important. And so that started really affecting me. And I think, by the time I was 12, 13, I was buying soundtracks right along with the rock albums, whatever they were that, I was buying at the time. So
you were diversifying your kind of love of music at a pretty early age then.
It happened very early on, and it just kept on going. Once I got into high school, throughout my teenage years, I mean, I was all over the place. I had punk, goth, metal, you name it, I had it. And then by the time that I graduated and was in my early 20s, I ended up working for a record store for 7 years. So, I mean, that pretty much opened the floodgates. Then I had access
that's done
to...
deal. It's all
to
there.
everything on the planet. So, I mean, I was listening to everything, and that is where I got into really heavy into jazz records and blues records. And yeah, it just went on. It was a snowball, and it still to this day has never ended. I'm still just as eclectically crazy as I ever have been.
And we find those people tend to make some pretty amazing music. So
thank you.
Jumping into kind of the music and the art, were those synonymous finds, or did the art come later?
The art came very, very closely with the music. I would say it probably came, within my junior high years, and then definitely once I was into high school, I was taking art classes throughout the rest of my studies. So yeah, it was pretty synonymous, and I kept going with it. And then once I was out, then I really focused on music for a good decade. And still did some art, got into photography quite a bit. Photography was a really big thing for me back in the 90s. And then, it never went away. It would just kind of teeter-totter here and there, and I would work on different projects, always experiment with different things, wood burning, anything I could, experiment with, I would do it. And it really didn't resurface as heavily until, I turned 40. I would say after my 30s, that was when it really started just steam balling down because I had gone through this whole process and this whole phase. I had gotten sober and was, I had all this time on my hands. So I was like, yeah, I need to do something. So, basically I had started chalking on this chalkboard at this place where I had been going to these meetings. And it was a shitty old, school board chalkboard, green chalkboard with a shit ton of scratches on it. And, people were like, you should probably draw on something else.
That's the perfect canvas for beginning Dungeon Synth art right there.
And Bringineer has said before, if you're a true artist, you could use crayons.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
well,
Chris, so
I wasn't a true artist at that point. I don't think I was just occupying my time, I think, more or less.
The canvas called.
Do you remember what some of those early drawings were through your time?
Oh,
there?
absolutely. In fact, I still have photos of them. I think there's a few on my Captain Shook Instagram. I mean, there were some very, very basic ones. There was one of just a slice of pizza. And, I remember the first one where I actually took some time to get intricate, and it was like a log cabin in a winter scene, and I'm very drawn to winter landscapes, and I love being in them. I love everything about them. I love winter and fall are my favorite seasons, hands down. So I can draw that stuff all day long. So I was really kind of putting some efforts into it, and I think that's when I realized I'm like, I'm going to pursue this. And in a nutshell, I had a friend who's pretty artistic herself, and she was like, here, you know what? She got me a pad of just straight black art paper, and she's like, try this and try it with chalk. And I'm like, okay, I'll try. And,
fine.
And it ended up actually working out. It actually worked better than the chalkboard. I was getting all these crazy textures, and I was still doing mostly all color then. Because now I'm doing a lot more black and white, but I really started out heavily with a lot of the colors and the hybrid chalk pastels, and that's when I realized, like, I like this, I can get into this. So I was doing for a year. I think I did at least one a day. Sometimes I do more than one a day.
Oh yeah, nice.
You were honing that craft, sharpening that axe, as we like to say here.
Yep, yeah. That's what I was doing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Such a cool medium. It's always amazed me. I think I said this in our last episode. When Inks first showed me your pieces, I was like, how is that? It doesn't look like chalk. Like, how is it chalk? It's just the level of detail you have in there is really incredible.
I appreciate that. So I can explain that to you, especially now. That the process has evolved from not only just the medium, because there are quite a few different mediums just within chalk alone, but also just the surfaces. And I went to canvas in 2018. In fact, Winterstead was really it wasn't my first one. I think I had done probably 3, maybe 4 prior to doing Winterstead, but in no way, shape, or form had I even really mastered anything. I wouldn't say I've mastered anything at all, but I've gotten some tricks up my sleeve since. But back then, I really didn't. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just having fun, and so I went to canvas and realized I could get whole new textures from canvas that I couldn't get anywhere else. And by using hybrid chalk pencils, I could get extremely detailed with it versus what the other chalk and the hybrid chalks could do. So I spent a lot of time really just sitting down and detailing and drawing smaller, but taking more time. And from I don't remember what the smallest canvas when I first started was, but I mean, it went from, like 9x12s or I think 8x12, and up to 18x24s and so on and so forth. So,
wow.
I mean, I just started getting bigger and bigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the,
what about chalk, resonated with you of all the different, mediums you can use out there? What is it about chalk that makes you keep going with that in particular?
At first it was there. It was just there and it was in front of me. So I picked it up and I started using it. So it wasn't like I was gravitated to it for any reason or purpose, but I stuck with it because I realized you could manipulate it so much. You could do so many different cool things with it. It's the same with paints and acrylics and oils. A good artist can manipulate anything, but
right.
I realized like chalk was very maneuverable in ways that I didn't know that it was. And I was finding all this out by accident, which was a lot of fun in itself. And it was the whole learning curve.
Yeah.
But what made me really stick with it was that I could manipulate it and bend it to my will. And if I made a big mistake or something, it wasn't the end of the world. I could actually fix it,
That's amazing.
It's all about the recovery.
Yep.
Masters are just amateurs who've learned to recover.
All right. So we have a very important question here on Cover Decoder, because for us, covers are important, and we know...
Covers are important.
Absolutely. We know for many artists, they are important as well. So, Jason, tell us about some covers or a cover that, as a child, really just stuck in your brain. For whatever reason, maybe it was the colors, maybe it was the content, but a cover that you can just remember seeing that you've never left.
So first and foremost, the Ursula K. Le Guin albums, covers. So Ursi was a big one. I got a hold of that probably in the early 90s, and I don't remember who did the art, but definitely those books stuck with me because the art was just it drew you in and you wanted to jump in there, and live in there. Those are definitely big ones for me. The covers to pretty much all of Dungeons and Dragons manuals, campaign, and monster books, they all had fantastic art in them as well.
Do you remember any campaigns you did? Any manuals?
For the early ones, not so much. It wasn't until I really branched out and started doing some of their side realms. I was really into Ravenloft and into Dark Sun. And I also, at that time, I was also playing Rifts and Palladium as well. And all had great artwork as well. So a lot of that stuff affected me very much.
What's your peak edition, Dungeons and Dragons edition of, through AD&D all the way up until 5 now? Where's your D&D brain at when you think about D&D?
I'd say second. Second was probably, yeah.
Yep.
That's really where you just went down the rabbit hole with that one, and you weren't really coming up for air on the second edition.
Brengineer's a ride or die second edition. His motorcycle gang is the second edition.
It's darker. It's grittier. It's mustier. It cleaned up after that. It cleaned up for sure.
Yeah, and it continues to. It did. The artwork of Dungeons and Dragons has just been, it's untouchable. Those artists do things that I can't even imagine. They're superhumans.
Yeah.
But over the years, it's gotten a little too polished for my taste. I'm not a big fan of the digital art at all.
I was about to ask you, what are your feelings on the digital art there?
Yeah, it doesn't do anything for me, and I'm really nothing against digital art and digital artists. They're great, and they definitely do some fantastic work outside in other arenas. But in the fantasy realm, I'm more old school. I'm a Frazetta fan. I love lines and ink lines and pencil lines, and I love, like, you just want to touch it. You don't want to touch digital art. You don't even care to even enter it half the time. But something drawn, hand drawn, and hand painted. I mean, it's just got a texture to it and a feel to it, and the colors to me are much more vibrant, and it's much more organic. So you can more or less relate to it on a different level than you can digital.
Yeah, you're not gonna put that digital art in a frame. It's not gonna have the golden gilt frame above the mantelpiece.
Absolutely not. No.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what a good cover will do for your album. It's amazing who you will draw in, or even who will just walk the other way. And for us, there's a lot of depth, and there's a lot of meaning behind that. And kind of speaking of that, your most recent album, Skin Witch, has a pretty alluring cover. I'm going to turn you over to Inks here. He has a few questions about your cover there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I got to cheat right when you guys were talking. I looked up the Earthsea cover I remember the most, which is the dragon intertwined into the island with all the castles and everything. From the box set. It's I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but it'll just give you an idea of what I'm thinking of. Is that one?
Oh yeah, that's it, man. That one would you could just sit there and stare at that thing, man. It's fantastic.
It's incredible. That was Pauline Ellison who illustrated that, and we're gonna have to dive into that later because yes, we say here that the cover is the portal to your world, and that's why it's so important. That a lot of times that's the first thing you see, and that's what's going to draw you in. And so, real quick, I just want to give like a timeline of your albums, which starts with Winterstead, then Leaving Winterstead, Stormhaven, Autumn Macabre, Traveling Tales, and then finally your newest one, which is the Skin Witch. What comes first, the music or the illustration of the cover?
9 times out of 10, it's usually the idea is born with the music, but
that's cool.
Pretty much like anything I do, the art is not far behind. So in the case of Winterstead, I was already in the midst of drawing the cover while I was still writing the album. I had probably gotten, I don't know, maybe 3 scratch tracks, possibly down, maybe 4 or 5. I don't remember, but I was already. I had maybe a couple corners of Winterstead drawn out and had a pretty good idea of where it was going to be going. So I drew and wrote simultaneously, which is kind of that's really how I function artistically. Is I have to have multiple things going on. I don't ever like to have just one thing and focus on it and try and hammer it out, because you run into a lot of roadblocks and writer's block, and it causes a lot of problems. I feel like if I've got multiple projects going on, even, whether it be artistically or musically, I've got a couple. So normally when I'm writing, I'm also probably writing another album for something completely different, and I'm also probably drawing some other artwork for something completely different as well, so that I can just bounce from one to the other, work on it a little bit, and then get to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm good. I need to let this sit and think about it, and then come back to it.
That's a hell of a smart way to tackle a writer's block there. Not only are you not getting stuck, but you're also finishing 5 projects at a time. I love that.
It's the only way I've found that really works for me. Otherwise, I go crazy. I will go crazy if I've just got one in front of me.
Yeah, mix it up. Well, then that leads me to another question. Then, for your albums, they're like locations. Are you mapping out these locations? Is there a map of these locations in your head, or are they just kind of representing like archetypal fantasy locations for you?
Yes, I am mapping them out. Originally, I wasn't. When I did Winterstead, I really didn't have any intention of, I didn't know that it was going to do anything. I figured it was just going to sit on Bandcamp and nobody was going to pay attention to it. Right. I didn't know what was going to happen. So at that point, I was just happy to do it. I was doing it for me.
Yeah.
And I was writing it in the midst of December and a very wet and cold December. And I had all of the right elements for that album happening around me that influenced it. And I was happy enough with that. I was stoked just to listen to it myself, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
It's nice to enjoy your own work, for sure.
Once it did, start getting a little traction, I thought, well, I can run with this for sure. And I did. And so I had some B-sides laying around, which is, obviously where Leaving Winterstead manifested a couple months later. I believe it was in March that I released that EP. And from there is where I really started mapping. Now, backtracking to, I believe it was a year or two before that, I can't remember, but I had drawn a map, and I was half-ass experimenting at the time because I was experimenting with different papers. I had drawn it on some charcoal gray paper and not just black paper.
Oh, that's cool.
So I was using black chalk pencils instead of white. And I ended up just drawing this map on a I believe it was a 12 by 14, if I remember right. And actually, that's where I very first drew Stormhaven. Stormhaven on that map was this little itty bitty speck of an island, and really didn't have a whole lot of detail. Didn't really have anything to it. The meat of that whole map was much larger and had a lot more stuff going on it, and still has a lot more cities and towns that have still not even been named in the realm of the guild.
So they're waiting for discovery.
Yeah, and that map still exists. In fact, I don't even own that map anymore. I actually sent that map to my good friend Evergreen of Fogweaver as a gift. So he now owns that map, the original.
So he has the insider baseball on it. He's got the trade secrets.
Oh, man.
He has the whole map. He knows where everything goes. However, that map does not have Winterstead on it. And my plan was to do multiple 12 by 14s and start piecing the whole map together because it was getting really large. So I'm actually still in the process of drawing the map. With that said, after Leaving Winterstead, that's when the whole idea for Stormhaven started happening. I was actually looking at that map, and I was staring at Stormhaven going, you know what? This little island needs some attention. There's a lot of shit going on in here, and people need to know about it. Like, there's some shady shit going on here.
Yeah, they need to know about it.
Yeah. And so that's what I did. I started writing Stormhaven, started doing the artwork, my usual process. And at that point, I was tinkering around with drawing an up-close map of Stormhaven, and I was getting really frustrated with it because it wasn't coming out how I wanted it to. So, and I follow tons of cartographers online on Facebook, cool. on Instagram, and a lot of them are D&D cartographers. And one of them was a favorite of mine. His fantasy name, I believe, is Teslane. His IG is Dungeon Master's Diary, and I would follow him. And one night I was sitting outside, and he had a live feed going on, and it was him drawing one of his D&D maps.
Oh,
and
cool.
I was like, holy shit. I was like, I gotta get this guy. So, next thing I did was obviously reached out to him and say, hey man, do you do commissions? He was like, yeah. And I said, well, here's my idea. And I, gave him the whole pitch, and he's like, hell yes, I'm in. And I go, fantastic. So he actually is the one that drew the Stormhaven map that comes with the Stormhaven album, the cassette, the CD, and that whole package.
That's amazing.
For Stormhaven.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's
So
how
you
that
get an
map
entire
came about.
adventure in one package.
Absolutely, you can make a whole D&D session out of it.
Yeah, that kind of brings me, fast forwards me a little bit to Skin Witch. When I was looking at the album, I noticed that it came with a poster. The poster is really cool. It's going down the mine shaft. And I don't know if you want to talk about how that came about a little bit.
So that picture, that poster, that kind of came about after I had actually drawn the cover for Skin Witch, which was the side of that hillside with the opening of the mine shaft.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wasn't terribly happy with that cover at first. I went back and forth. I was like, it's getting the point across, but I feel like it could be so much more. And so I felt like I knew I wanted to do a poster. I do posters every time I release an album, so each album will come with a poster. I wasn't sure what I was going to do at that point, but the more I stared at that cover of the opening of the mine shaft, I was like, you know what? I want to go inside. I want to look inside. I want to know what this place looks like inside.
Yeah.
Which is what spurred that, and so I started working on a believe it's a 24 by 18. It's a big one.
Yeah. That's,
nice.
And as soon as I started, I was like, yeah, this is the way this is the way it's going to go, and started doing the rock formations. And rock formations are a lot of fun and absolutely unpredictable. You can go in so many directions, and really, it was getting to the point where I could almost just close my eyes and let my hand just do the work, and it would just be awesome. It didn't really matter what I was doing. I was letting the picture pretty much draw itself at that point.
So a question about that. So when you were doing that album, when you were doing that piece, did you have the music you'd recorded going? Or were you like, how were you in the headspace kind of for doing that piece?
Yeah,
no,
did you have the candles?
Dude, I am a candle fanatic.
Yeah.
If it hasn't become painfully obvious yet, I am a candle nut. I buy candles all the time. I've got candles all over my house. I am a candle. I got a problem with candles.
Well, the Guild of Lore logo is the candle.
It's a candle.
Yeah.
And that's what drew me in. I was listening to Diplodocus, and it said, hey, you might like to listen to this. And I saw that candle. I was like, oh, I might like to listen to that. And that candle on the little icon was really what drew me in. That's what got me started. And then, boom, up comes these awesome chalk illustrations, because covers are important. But, back to Tabes' question, like, how do you set the mood for when you do a piece, any piece?
Okay, so, that is a tough question because it varies from piece to piece. I'll answer the mineshaft one first. So that one in particular, I'm a big fan of ASMR. I scout the internet endlessly for ASMR and just soundscapes and anything the like. So I listen to a lot of there's a channel on YouTube called Viewful ASMR, and what they do is they just set like to anywhere from an hour to 3 hour video game backdrops. So they've got like Elder Scrolls, The Witcher, all these great landscapes. You could just put it on your TV and you're in that area, you know. And so what I was doing while I was drawing that was I was finding mineshaft ASMRs, like, and there's actually a couple out there. There was one from Red Dead Redemption.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I remember I was watching, and there were a couple other ones too, and a lot of subterranean ones, like, you know, caves and really dark atmosphere. So I would just keep these really dark, dank areas and soundscapes going while I was drawing, and that was really influencing me a lot.
Yeah, for me, like when listening to that album, I couldn't help but like think of like there's all these tunnels and mines out in Kentucky, and there's stories of like goblins and creatures like using those mines to get around the state and the South down there. And I just kept thinking about being in those mines in Kentucky, clutching my banjo as these little creatures are trying to take my last candle. It definitely set a terrific mood for that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So how did you get involved with this project? Doing this was obviously for the video game Skin Witch. How did this come about? What was the impetus behind that?
That was via email. I had received an email. I want to say it was, now I don't remember. I think it was shortly after I had returned from Dungeon Siege West, and was asked if I would be interested in doing a soundtrack for a video game. And he wasn't very specific on a whole lot, but he did mention that he was very much he was enjoying Autumn Macabre a lot, and he wanted something very similar to Autumn Macabre. And so I said, well, yeah, absolutely. And I had been always wanting to, soundtrack a video game. So I said, of course, I am in. So we started going back and forth email wise, Blackwood, Spectre, and I, and had a couple phone calls, and I gave him some of my ideas and concerns, and he shot some ideas my way. And so it kind of evolved in that way. And I started writing not too long after. I think I started writing maybe a couple weeks after that initial email, because I had already had a project going on. But initially he had only asked me for, I think it was he told me, give me maybe 4 tracks. And I go, 4 tracks? Are you sure? Like, and 2-minute tracks at that. And I was like, man, are you sure? Like, I said, okay, I'll do it. So, I wrote 4 tracks. I wrote the theme song, the first track on the album, the Song of the Skin Witch. I did that one first. And then I think I did Burden of Bullets and I also did a couple of the soundscapes, the atmospheres as well. But I was getting really into it, and I just kept on writing. I told him, hey, look, I'm gonna give you a bunch of stuff. That way you have a lot to pull from, because I feel like you're gonna probably want more anyway. And I was having a good time. And I also told him, we had made an arrangement where, I was going to be able to keep all my rights and sell my album, and the music was going to be mine solely. So I said, I'm going to make an album out of this. And we agreed that, it was okay for me to use his game's name and all of that. So that's really how the whole,
that's a really cool arrangement,
got started. It seemed appropriate, and it seemed the less confusing and less painful way to do it, because we didn't want any legalities and everything, even though we did have a little bit here and there. But for the most part, I really just wanted it cut and dry. This is your game,
right.
This is my music, and that's the way it should be. You make your money off your game, and I make money off my music.
Well, it's this kind of cool, like, esoteric find too. People are like, wait, the music from this game was made by this guy who has all these other Dungeon Synth albums.
Yeah.
It's a cool way to explore the two things without having them be like exclusive to one another.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Is, and I wanted that, and I also wanted to be able to. I wanted to be able to keep the guild's lore intact, even though this game took place within his realm and it was his lore. I felt like the more that I kept on writing, I started writing with some underlying hidden objectives, and that obviously was keeping Ingsmith in his world, but also in this other world where there were these skin witch beasts in these subterranean areas. So the way that I kind of put it all together was after Autumn Macabre, there were some, or no, I'm sorry, after Stormhaven, there were some portals involved in the lore, and that's how Autumn Macabre came about. So we've got some portal action going on here, which is how he kind of went back and forth and is still back in his realm where there's Stormhaven, Winterstead, and so on. And that was really tough at first. I beat my head against a wall trying to figure out how the hell am I going to keep the guild's lore involved in this when they've got a whole nother set of lores, you know. But I feel that it worked out pretty well in the end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and well, I'm going to hold off till a little bit later, but that definitely comes out in your performance. But my next question is, so which location felt the most natural for you, and which one was the biggest challenge?
Winterstead was definitely probably one of the most natural. It was uninhibited, it was just free writing. It was so free. And then once I got to Stormhaven, I started, giving myself some boundaries and some objectives that I felt that I needed to meet. So it got a little bit more difficult during Stormhaven, and especially the fact that I was involving a lot more soundscapes. I mean, every single song's got a soundscape involved with it, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was a lot more intuitive and a lot more work putting that together. But I wouldn't say by any means creatively it was difficult, because it wasn't. I was definitely having a lot of fun with that. And that goes for Autumn Macabre as well. That goes for all the ones that I dreamt up myself. I would say probably doing somebody else's work and involving yourself into somebody else's lore is a little bit more of a challenge than, what's in your own head. So I would say probably Skin Witch would be the answer to that.
How was Stormhaven cover wise? Because to me that one seems like it would have been the most difficult to chalk down, because you have buildings, you have docks, you have frost, you have you got the wood guy in the cart. You've got so many things in that cover. So
Thunder,
you've got the mermaid. How is that one chalking wise?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That was the most difficult one, and to this day was still the most difficult. And I just powered through it. I made a lot of mistakes on that cover. I was still experimenting a lot, and quite frankly, I'm not very good at buildings and structures, and I struggle with them a lot. So I got really lucky with Winterstead, I feel like, and on Stormhaven, I was pushing myself to create something architecturally that didn't really make a lot of sense to me, because I had these buildings in the air that were on stilts with water running underneath them, and it was like, and I'm trying to find stuff on the internet just to reference, what houses look like on stilts, and there was barely anything. I couldn't really, and even artwork, it was really tough to envision when I didn't have a whole lot of resources just to go off of and reference in that respect. So I was really flying by the seat of my pants on some of the portions of that cover. The landscape parts, that was a no-brainer. I was really having a lot of fun with that. It was more or less the structures and the docks and getting that all right. And man, I that's another one. I beat my head up, against the wall on that one time after time, and I made mistake after mistake, and thankfully there's a lot of those mistakes that I was able to cover up and fix that just ended up working together so that it didn't. I was scared, man. I had half the picture done, and I was sitting there working. I'm like, if I fuck this up, I'm quitting.
The album is done. I'm burning the whole thing.
Yeah.
How did you?
That's so much of art. So much of art is just the letting go of the fear and just You know,
Yeah.
daring to mess up this like amazing thing you've created just to make it better, I find.
Yep, that's exactly what I was doing.
I feel once you like with a painting or a drawing or any kind of illustration, really, once you get up to like that top of the hill and you look down on the other side, you're like, I am going to fuck this up. I can't believe I'm up here. Who let me do this? But a lot of times, if you just coast down the other side, you look back and you go, oh yeah, that wasn't so bad. But so yeah, that's my final question. Then, like, do you have any like things that you learned from those challenges, or any like tips or anything for the young burgeoning
how'd you fix those
cover
fuck-ups?
artists?
I'm curious.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of chalk, is like I think I mentioned it earlier, is that chalk is very maneuverable and it can be manipulated. So a lot of those things I was able to manipulate by either involving other types of chalk, like some of the hybrid chalk, or even some real chalk, like dust chalk, like the mist and some of even like portions of the clouds in that particular picture. That's like real dust chalk. Like I took my finger and rubbed it on the canvas, and that's how I created that effect. And yeah, just slowly and carefully is how I really fixed them. But my encouragement to anybody that, is artistically inclined and wants to continue to go down whatever artistic medium that they're going down is obviously number one and first and foremost, just to explore and just not give a shit. Like,
super important.
Make lots of fuck ups. Get tons and tons of canvases or paper or whatever your medium is, and just go to town. Just have fun with it. That's the most important thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wise words.
And that definitely comes like when you speak about all the docks and the wood and everything, that comes out in the sound of the album too. You hear the creaking of the docks. The whole album is wet and soaked, and we're Northwest boys, and so we're no strangers to rain. And that kind of takes me. I'm going to hand it over now to Bringineer, because those curiosities about the sound design is going to be more his realm. But
he's our resident button pusher.
He is.
I push the buttons. So you had a really incredible show recently.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was an experience.
Oh man, it was so good.
So tell us a bit about that. So, I got to watch a few of the Dungeon Siege East shows streaming, and a couple others that weren't the kind of just offshoots. But yours was really something
special.
different, something special. It was its own production for sure. Tell us a bit about the idea behind your performance.
Well, the idea came obviously when I was approached to do an online performance. I first thing I thought was I wanted to say no. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't even know what the hell I'm doing, and what the hell am I going to do, and how the hell am I going to get the Guild and Ingsmith online for a performance. So that was already kind of daunting, and I had to really do some brainstorming as far as figuring out what I was going to do. And once, I thought about it and thought, I should probably do this. The immediate first thought was, well, what's my backdrop going to be? What's my landscape going to be? And where's Ingsmith going to be? Obviously, fireplace is a big component in a lot of things Guild of Lore related. So my living room, my fireplace were the first thing I thought. I go, I could probably pull this off in my living room. So I started working on brainstorming a set for my living room based around my fireplace, and it just kept on kind of metamorphosizing itself into one thing and then another. And then I thought, I really want this to kind of have a very Wintersteadish feel. So I got, a stone wall backdrop and put the banners up. And
that was cool, man.
Yeah,
The stone
I thought
wall
that was,
backdrop. I noticed that.
I thought that was real stone.
I was like, is this his actual tiling?
I was like,
this is great.
Live your brand. Go live in a tower.
Yeah, that was my first question. I'm like, is this really his house? Does he actually live in like a castle?
Winterstead's a real
I wish
place.
I did, man. Well, it is. It just doesn't happen to be where I'm at currently. But so that was, and I almost did not do that. That stuff. It was really frustrating getting that to actually look right, and I quickly realized that lighting was going to be everything.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, I wanted a lot of candles involved, but it was also candle placement where the candles were lighting certain parts of the room. So I had already been scouting for lanterns because I'm a candle fanatic. So I look for candle lanterns, and I had found these really cool ones that were like Moroccan lanterns and very medieval looking. So got a hold of those, and they really did the trick. They kind of cast off that dark orange glow. And from there, started building the set. Got my desk, which was more or less like kind of a sewing desk, and started piecing that together. And then the aesthetics of the burlap and the books and all that really kind of came second after I had everything centralized around the fireplace. And with that said, I mean, I live in a place during summer. It's very hot here, so I'm going to be doing this on a summer day.
Yeah,
I thought, well, I'm gonna hope for a cool day and hope it's not triple digits, and because I am gonna be burning a live fire, And thankfully that day, I think it only got up to like 85 or 89, so I was cool. I just kept the AC going and lit the fire and the candle. It got warm in there, obviously, wearing the cloak and everything, but definitely wasn't as bad as I had anticipated. It was more or less me giving myself a workout that got me all like sweaty, but so that's kind of where it all started. And I really, like I said, I really wanted to have kind of a Winterstead feel and a very castle-ish, lodge-ish kind of feel. I was shooting for the long lodge. I don't know if I got it or not.
Oh yeah,
you did. I actually really I
think you
lodge
captured
for
it.
sure.
Oh yeah,
one of the things I really appreciated about your setup too, because one of the we've actually seen a lot of electronic shows as a group, and one of the things I can never really get behind is when the computer is set up in front. You can't really see what's going on with the hands. And not to say that someone's not playing, but I really liked how you had your keyboard set up in a way where you couldn't see your keyboard, but you could see your fingers. You knew that you were playing, and it was right there. So it was this really cool aesthetic where you didn't break sort of the scenery, with your modern day machinery hanging out, but you could tell that you were there playing. It was a really cool
effect. I appreciate that. That was kind of a last minute thing. The burlap was which is what that was. Is I wrapped the outside of the keyboard in burlap and kind of wanted to just have something there that will fit. I used burlap for the Stormhaven covers for the cassettes and the CDs, so it was a very integral part of that album. So I felt like it made sense to have the burlap there.
Yeah.
The internet performance, what goes into that? I mean, it sounded great. What do you have to do to get that over to the guys running the whole program and come out through our speakers and all that kind of business?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, first I have to have my music in place, and basically I put together a set list. And originally my plan was I was going to have a mic up there with me, and I was going to do I wanted to do narration no matter what. That was
I love that piece. That was such a cool thing to put. Yeah.
But the more and more that I kept on playing with it, and because basically I have to go from my system, and I'm, at that point running 2 laptops, into another system that's running OBS, which is Open Broadcasting System or something, and that goes to a Twitch feed. And then from that, then it gets piggybacked by the host who is hosting the event. And so that's a lot of hoops to jump through. And I thought with all of that going on, there's so many things that can go wrong. And granted, it's not like it hasn't been done. I mean, Ophelia Drowning was doing live vocals. It's not like it can't be done, but I felt like for what I wanted to do and have it in a narrative process with the backgrounds and everything going on, I felt like it was going to be too much of me bouncing back around and too many things really kind of happening for me to really be able to control the whole entire situation and make it all cognitive and make it make sense and be a good performance. So that's where the idea really came for the narration. And then it just, snowballed into the idea of, I could do this like a movie where I'm, writing in a journal and narrate over me writing.
Yeah, that was so good.
And so one night I just sat out, with my rig, and I literally put that entire narration together in one night and edited it. And because I had, obviously I had all the lore was pretty much there for me. I just had to handpick what I wanted to narrate and what I wanted to put together.
So I was curious about that. So the narration you have in there, is that the journey of Ingsmith thus far? Or did it deviate a little?
It's it did deviate a little bit, but yeah, it's pretty accurate. And I was also paying close attention to what had transpired in the video for Sojourn and Return from the Skirmish album, which I had done, shortly before I had released that video, because that was really the key to keeping Ingsmith in his own realm from the Skirmish lore, and that video pretty much told the tale of him, and kind of hinted at the idea that there might be a return to Winterstead here coming, because that's what Sojourn and Return really was about, was him returning to Winterstead and the journey from Autumn Macabre, or from Stormhaven, Autumn Macabre, and even from Skinwich, and he's headed back. So if anything, the live performance was more or less a continuation of that story, and also told some untold stories that are from things that are upcoming, because obviously there were some songs in there that aren't on any albums, and some stories that involved places that I haven't even released yet, which involved pretty much the next endeavor, which is a soundtrack that I'm working on for a full animated movie.
Nice.
That I was asked to do some work for.
Whoa.
Now, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's no small news there, Jason.
I can tell you some news about that. So much like the way that the Skinwich soundtrack came about, this was via email. I received an email from a gentleman, asking if I would be interested in doing. He didn't ask if I would be interested in doing a soundtrack. He asked if I'd be interested in doing a track, doing a portion of a part of a film and putting music to it. And I said, of course, I'm definitely interested. And so that went on, and emailed back and forth and got to know kind of a little bit more of what it was about. And he ended up sending me a really, really rough version of the movie, actually unfinished, because it's not finished even yet.
Was it the full unfinished cut?
It's full unfinished cut, yes.
Oh man, what a sweet deal!
Nice.
And then also sent me the clip of the portion of the film that he was interested in having me work on for him. So, and again, this happened during that was actually before Dungeon Siege West. And I told him, I'm absolutely interested, but here's what I got going on. I'm getting ready to fly to Seattle to put on this festival and play this festival. And and he was like, yeah, okay, great. And, I told him, okay, as soon as I get back, that's what I'm going to work on. And so that was the project that I had going on prior to Skirmish. And that's actually what I did. As soon as I got back from Seattle, I went straight to work on this film. Because after I had watched it, I was blown away. My mouth was on the jaw, my jaw was on the floor. It was just, I couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, this is no joke. And it's a very heavy tip of the hat to the original heavy metal animated film.
Yeah.
Very, very much inspired by those artists, the Frazettas, Wizards. Dude, stuff that I am just a sucker for. I was like, are you kidding me? I am all over this. So I started working on that, and at one point, I ended up talking to the gentleman whose name is Philip, and kind of picked his brain and wanted to just get an idea, same way I did with Skirmish, of what he was after and what what my concerns and thoughts were, and so went from there and ended up writing a pretty big, lengthy piece just for that portion. But at the same time, I was also tinkering around with other ideas for that same piece. So what I ended up with was some other tracks that I really, really liked and wanted to keep. And, basically we came to the same agreement. I told him I just want to be able to keep my rights and sell my stuff, and I'll put a little album together and base it off of this. And he was like, oh yeah, cool.
That's so cool.
That's really cool.
Now, the writing of this music for this film, are you channeling Guild of Lore? Are you channeling, say, Breather One?
Oh,
it's very mixed. Yeah, you are a fox indeed.
Are we talking sci-fi, fantasy?
It's definitely got it is definitely rooted in the Guild, of course. And obviously, the stuff that I wrote particularly for that section of the film is definitely Guild, but it's definitely geared towards events in that portion of the film. So it's definitely got some soundtrack qualities that I haven't really ever touched before, as far as like film aesthetics go and soundtracking and sound to a film. But the other stuff as well really kind of started evolving into something else that is still very much the Guild, but it was inspired by what was happening in that film and other events outside of that section of the film, just by basically the film itself in its entirety. And I felt like that was a good springboard for me to really kind of push into the next original Guild of Lore album, which, it all eyes and all fingers are pointing towards the return to Winterstead, and that's where I want it to go.
And that's what's really cool is like your Ingsmith is becoming real in that he is a traveler and a writer of lore, and I'm guessing like he documents the history of things he sees, and it's actually
He's taking on life
it's
of his
becoming
own.
a real thing as you're traveling through these different projects.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very interesting and very fun to experience.
That's incredible.
Before we jump away, can we get a name of the film?
So
for the listeners?
There's a few things I can absolutely tell you some things about the film. The name of the film that it's supposed to be done this year, or sometime at the end of this year, is called The Spine of Night. And he actually gave me the go-ahead to even give you a little bit more information on it. He's got a company, I think it's just his company, on his Facebook page is called Gorgonaut, and you can actually go there and watch a couple early previews of that specific film, and you can also watch...
Oh, the hell yeah, there you go, folks. Gorgonaut, go there now.
You can also watch the prequel that he did for this film.
Amazing.
That's what we need. We need a return to real art animated films, and you know, a lot of the stuff, even the real art now, has a lot of kind of digital touch to it. So I am very excited to see what comes out of this.
I believe
all about that hand draw.
I think I can mention this, but he's doing this whole thing in rotoscope, so that is huge.
That's incredible.
If you know what rotoscope
man. We're going to get those crispy prehistoric butt cheeks, just like Frank Frazetta would love.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And to let the listener know too, they can watch your performance on YouTube. If I believe you look up Dungeon Siege Skirmish,
That's correct.
and Guild of Lore. If you guys want to see that incredible performance that we're still drooling over.
Thank you. Yeah, it's up on YouTube.
All right, so I've got one last question for you.
Sure.
And it's one I asked at the end of the Dungeon Synth episode.
Oh yeah.
What are your 10 if you can make it 10 current Dungeon Synth albums or bands that a newbie who has never heard of the genre before needs to check out?
Oh man. Wow. Well,
The Ingsmith collection.
Yeah, okay. Let's try and put that list and keep it as intact as possible. Somber Arcane, obviously, huge trailblazers in the genre, in my opinion, and to date, still I believe the best live Dungeon Synth show you're going to catch. They from day one they've been going all out, and they just keep on fine-tuning their show, and it never ceases to amaze me what they pull off live. And the incorporation with Josh and his live instruments, with his medieval instruments, he's got harps and dulcimers and lyres now. It's a fantastic overall Dungeon Synth experience with those guys, so I highly recommend Somber Arcane. Fogweaver, who I mentioned earlier about the Earthsea, he obviously is completely based in the Le Guin mythos, so it's fantastic music, but it's also related to her stories as well. So it's twofold. You get two for the price of one. You get a soundtrack to Ursula K. Le Guin, as well as Evergreen's great music that he puts out. Who I don't know if I mentioned this, but he puts out a lot on the side, and I happened to do a side project, or contribute to a side project that he had done recently, which was called Snowspire.
No way.
And
Snowspire, yeah, that's great. That's a great one.
And which was very winter synth based. So that's another good one to check out as well. Saragost, who I shared that online performance with, I have been a fan from the get-go of his first album. I was sold because I'm a big Castlevania fan, and that first album was so Castlevania. I was like, this guy's got to be a Castlevania fan. So somewhere along the way, we started talking and became friends. And yeah, sure enough, he's a huge Castlevania fan. But he just released a new album, which I think honestly has got to be his best work to date, because it was just so
definitely
Oh, it's so good. It's so dark, and he's got some Dark Sun influence in there, and I'm just like, Jesus, dude, you're killing me with this stuff. It's so good.
That is a hefty, mighty slab.
Yeah.
It's a mace.
It's the war
that
synth.
album. That's a rusty mace of an album. I'm gonna say.
Well, it's really funny. It's funny thinking that you could sit there and like headbang to music created from a guy sitting in his living room or whatever, just playing on keyboards. But it is that heavy. Like you can get into it.
Oh, absolutely.
So hardcore with some of this stuff.
Dude. When I first heard that album, I thought, man, and nothing against anybody doing, the Barbarian and Conan based Dungeon Synth, but Daniel has got a direct link to that whole aura and genre, and he's in tune finally with it, and he just purely nails it. It is amazing to me. I admit
his horn sound is unmatched.
Absolutely, he just.
That's what blew me away in the performance was the blah, just coming right into your ear holes. It was amazing.
Absolutely.
And kind of what the tape said, it's like when you're watching the performances, you forget, and that's the whole point of the music and the albums, right? Is you forget that these are people's living rooms and that they're making these musics on the computer.
If the music transports you away from what you're looking at and takes you to that brain place, success.
Absolutely. That is the entire point of the whole thing, is to escape to another world. So with that, there's a few others as well. A few that might not be as well known that I'm really into. One of them is a female artist out of the UK somewhere, and she goes by Whitewood Inn, and I really enjoy her. She has an 8-track demo out, and I think she actually released a single as well. But very, very much along the lines of what I'm really into, kind of soundscaping, but she also soundscapes with old audio tracks from like old, those old movies that I like. And she actually, her demo has some samples from a movie. Oh God, I don't think I remember what it was now. I think it was City of the Damned. But this is just this old movie, old black and white movie about a ditzy white college girl who gets involved in this town with a whole bunch of witchcraft going. It's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal movie. But she sampled all this and puts it in her DS, and I'm like, oh, this is so good. Like, it's amazing. And she's also, she's really talented at writing some very good medieval passages as well. So I do recommend that Whitewood Inn as well. Obviously, the heavy hitters that are out there, Velastra. Oh God, I always butcher his name. It's Means Project. Velastra is really good, and that project in itself it stands apart from a lot of other DS because his stuff is pretty much recorded live for the most part. I mean, he runs a keyboard through a looper pedal, and that's how he plays live as well. And cool. He does a lot of really repetitive, but he's got a lot of hooks. He always writes a lot of hooks. And so it's those things you can just put on and it's on repeat, but it's like ASMR to me. I could keep it going in the background and it keeps me in that atmosphere. So his stuff is equally just as good to me. Man, going down that list.
I was kind of curious, Jason, thinking about back to the show, has the idea ever, come into your head to put narration or vocals in Guild of Lore?
Yeah, that occurred to me. In fact, I've considered releasing that live because I have that audio from that performance. I'm considering just releasing that live.
Yes. Oh, that'd be great. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely has it has come across many different albums, each time I do an album, that comes across my mind as, do I want to narrate something here? And I hadn't been doing it because I felt like I just wanted the listener to narrate the album themselves and put themselves wherever they were. But the more that the locations get defined and Ingsmith gets defined and the world that he's in gets defined, I feel like it's begging to be kind of narrated a little bit more, and the story needs to be told a little bit more, because now it's established, and so now I can kind of, jettison that story even further out. So yeah, I would anticipate, I'll probably do some narrations in the future.
All right, that'd be rad.
Now, can we expect that amazing X-File theme song?
Oh, that was
cover,
great.
to appear on?
That's the best sound check to date.
Oh man, I threw that one out there as a curveball. I almost didn't pull the trigger on that. I thought, man, this might be too much. It might be way too over the top.
No, it's great.
I had that sitting for a while. I had done that track for a friend way back when she was actually doing a podcast, was going to do an X-Files podcast, and it really never came to fruition. So I had this thing sitting and really never did anything with it. And I still would always listen to it and be like, man, I wish I could do something with this. And I thought, you know what? I think the Guild can get a hold of this and turn this into like a Guild X-Files. And so,
Yeah.
What's funny, it inspired me to start watching the show all over again. So there you
that's
go.
true.
man, dude, you know what? I'm right there with you. I'm about ready to go back. It's time. So,
Oh, it's always a good journey.
Yeah, I
for
love
sure.
the
I think that's all the questions I got.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was gonna say, I just love the thought of Ingsmith hearing that song and being like, taking it back to the Guild and being like, hey, listen to this.
I discovered this thing.
yeah.
Strange music from another world.
Sounds from the future.
I had so many people that after I was done, my phone had blown up, and I had people being like, "You cheeky fucker!" Like, you know what I mean? Just posting this. What the hell? He's doing the X-Files.
Well, Jason, it has been, speaking of journeys, it has been awesome to hang out with you, get your thoughts, hear about the creation of your covers, your music. I can honestly say, without any milking of the eggplant, your music, your music has been very inspirational to especially Inks, but to all of us as well. We're all huge fans of your music now. And yeah, we just appreciate you coming out and talking to us, man. It's really been an honor.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It is definitely been enjoyable for me as well, chatting with you guys. And thank you again so much for having me on the show, and the support for the Guild. I mean, it still to this day blows my mind that anybody even really gives a shit. But I mean, it's a testament to the whole fantasy genre. I mean, there are so many people out there that want that fantasy, that want that escapism, that want to go and explore these other places that, come from other people's minds. So it's really amazing, and it continues to thrive within the entire Dungeon Synth community. There's so many people out there creating all these other worlds, and it's always so fun to find new ones. So it keeps me going for sure.
That's amazing. Before we let you go, Jason, is there anything that you want to let our listeners know? Any other projects? Anything you're working on that they can go out and listen to? They can find any books that Master Ingsmith has written under a different name? Anything at all? The floor is yours.
No, he hasn't written any books just yet that are published anyhow, but that has definitely crossed my mind after Frantic from Somber Arcane. He actually published his own book, so that kind of got me thinking. Once he did that, I'm like, Inksmith's probably got some stuff he's probably going to want to publish, and
I would easily read
like
that.
a collection of letters. That would be really cool.
And I mean, the lore is just piling up. I mean, I do write out the lore a lot, so eventually I can see an actual, published book of Guild lore, and secrets and letters and maps and God only knows what else, but just a lot of really cool shit.
Yeah.
So I mean, that would be the ultimate goal.
The Guild
there.
of Lore coffee table book.
Oh man, I want to read that
tell you
too.
When that comes out, the Decoders will be here to decode the cover.
Oh, fantastic!
For sure.
Yeah, that one would definitely put me back in the shop drawing a whole new cover. But thank you so much. And yeah, obviously I want to say thank you to all of the fans. You guys are all amazing. All of the guild keepers throughout the entire world, and they are literally all over the world. I mean, they're everywhere. So it's really it's been an amazing experience, and I am super excited to just keep on continuing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to returning to Winterstead. As of now, there's no date or anything, but obviously that is the direction that I'm going. So I'm looking forward to getting back there.
That's very exciting. Well, we can't wait, Jason. Thank you once again. And you know what? I don't believe in farewells, fare thee wells. There's always more covers. So we will be back to talk to you soon.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming out of the other end of the interview with Master Ingsmith. Where to begin? The guy is a stallion. He is a full-blooded centaur. You must listen to his music. If you're not already a fan, which I know many of you are already fans, please go out there, find his music, and listen to it. We at Cover Decoder, we really like our all-stars. We like our Frank Frazzettas. We like our Roger Deans. But I think the true blood, the thing we really look for are it's the labor guys, or gals. Yeah. It's the hardworking cover folks out there who are they're chopping wood on 8 different blocks. And it's visceral. Yeah. It's visceral. And
they are creating.
They are
aggressive.
He's not just, he's creating aggressively. It's not just one thing. He's jumping around.
Yeah.
He's putting amazing stuff out into the world for you to enjoy.
And he's enjoying it.
That gets severe claw.
Yeah.
Severe.
Yeah, and if you want to enjoy that stuff, you need to go to Guild of Lore at Bandcamp.
Yes.
You can also follow, I think Guild of Lore has an Instagram at Guild of Lore.
Yes,
and then also at Jason Shook, the artist behind Guild of Lore, to see some of his art. And we will have links to all that. But yes, you need to invite it into your life, because these little gems, these little special things that we've come across, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and just to give you guys a taste of what a dude this guy is, we actually had a previous interview before, and unfortunately something happened with one of the ends, and we lost the whole thing. Jason carved out another 2 hours for us to do this interview, and as you listened, the guy has so many projects, so he did not have to do that. We are so grateful to him for doing that, and for just being such a stand-up, awesome dude and hanging out with us. So we really hoped you guys enjoyed that. I know we had a hell of a lot of fun doing it, too. So, yeah, once again, thank you all for being a part of this journey. We are uncovering. We are truly beginning to uncover the mysteries behind these covers. Visit our website, coverdecoder.com. If you have any questions, comments, or covers, send them to us. you could be the one we are interviewing.
Yes.
If you have the covers, coverdecoder@gmail.com. Check us out on Instagram @coverdecoder. Like, review, and follow us, please. Get us out there. It's not for the glory. Actually, I lied. It is for the glory. It's for the glory of other artists. We want to find them.
Yes.
It's not for our glory.
The more exposure we can
100%.
get, the more people we can find. That's what we want, folks. We want covers. We want to look at them. We want to decode them. And so whatever platform you're listening to, leave us a review, follow it, like it. And remember, send us your covers because our final episode, you could win some merch. You want a shirt? Send us a cover. That's how it works, folks. All right.
That's right.
Once again, go forth, find covers. Covers are important. This is Cover Decoder.